What's up, everybody? It's Ricardo here, and I'm reviewing the Juice Volume 1 by Emotional Oranges. So let's get to it. Alright, so a brief backstory on who Emotional Oranges are, because I'm pretty sure some of you like, Emotional Oranges? Who's that? So you might not know who they are, so I'm gonna just give you a brief intro on who these guys are, because I also didn't know them. I just kind of bumped into their music. So Emotional Oranges is a duo between a girl and a guy whose names remain unknown. It's like their thing. They don't want people to know their names, so I guess that kind of makes them cooler. So it's a duo between those two, a guy and a girl, and they talk about love and the things people go through love. And it kind of gives you a perspective of both the guy, what he thinks, and the girl, what she thinks. So I think that's pretty cool, and it kind of reminds you of him and her as well, him and her. But yeah, what happened to him anyways? Just kind of disappeared, or maybe it's just me who doesn't really keep up with that type of thing. But yeah, if you know what happened to him, drop a comment on what you think happened, or if he's still releasing music or using another name. Just drop a comment so I can check him out as well.
For sure.
Stop blooping out your name. Say your name. Where were you born?
From the mud. I was born in the mud in 2002. Wait, that's not funny, dude. I was big in the sun. I was really brown when I was young. I had a rooster.
Okay.
I had a parrot.
What was your rooster's name?
Rocco.
Rocco the cock?
Okay, I'm telling the most vulnerable parts of my life. I am a Taurus. I'm different, Why was 2002 the most important year of your young life?
Growing up in the Bronx, and not in England. The Bronx, in England.
So this duo has been on the low for quite a while. They only came on the scene in 2018, and I only discovered them this year, which is 2019. So it was like finding gold, to be honest. I was just going through some playlist on Apple Music, I think, or Spotify, and I just kind of bumped into the music, and I was like, okay, these are kind of cool. I'm not sure which song exactly I bumped into, but I checked them out through one of their songs. So yeah, I bumped into those guys, checked out their music, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm giving you guys some feedback of what I heard, and more like an encouragement to say for you guys to go try out their music if you haven't tried it out before, or if you just want to hear about new people, like new artists, you can just continue listening, I guess. So one thing I like about these guys is that their music is very relatable to everyone, because they talk about love and the things people go through love when they are in love, and what leads to breakups mostly, you find out in this video, because so at least that's what makes them very relatable, because everyone goes through that. Pretty much everyone goes through that. Okay. Alright. Yeah, so everyone goes through that, and they don't really talk about money or fame that much, and I feel like that's what people really want to hear, because if someone keeps talking about their fame and their money, and when I'm listening to, I'm broke, okay? I don't have money, I'm not that famous, I'm not famous at all, at all. So I can't really relate to that type of music, as much as it might be cool to me for a while. I can't really connect with it as well, because I don't really know how those things feel. So I can't really relate to them, and they talk about the things that I can relate to, so I think you guys might relate to it as well. Alright, so let's start the review. Enough of the backstory. So from the get-go in the album, we start with track number 1, which is Motion. You kind of hear, like, when you start listening to someone new and you listen to like an album, you have to get like that thing which catches your attention immediately. Otherwise, you go to the second track, third track, then you're like, nah, this is not for me, and then you just cut it off. So for this album, they did really well in catching people's attention because their production is really good, and they have like a really soulful, groovy vibe to them, which I really liked. So you kind of hear that in the first song and throughout the album as well. They have a really strong guitar in there. Bass guitar, I don't know which other types of guitars there are, but yeah, I just know bass guitar. So so you hear like a really good bass guitar in there, and it catches your attention. You just keep wanting to listen to their music. So from what I understood from this album, it's like stages of love, to say, where you're in this new relationship, you're in this new thing, that you kind of get attached to someone, and then you start to explore what it feels like to be with that person. And then the relationship, like most relationships, you get into like a phase where you realize that this person is not as perfect as you thought they were, and it goes from there to you realizing that, you know what, maybe this person is not a good person as I thought they were, and that's where the relationship ends. So from Motion, which is track number 1, you're like getting into that phase where you're still, getting to know the person, and you feel like they're perfect. So if you are like starting a relationship and it's still feeling brand new, you're feeling like your heart pumps every time you see him or her, you might really like this song, because with the vibe it has as well, it's kind of an upbeat, to say, where you still feeling your heart pump when you see that person. So you really relate to this song, so you can start with that one. Of course you have to start with that one because it's the first track, but yeah, you start with that one, then you carry on into the album. An honorable mention goes to the second track, Personal. I'm not going to be going through each and every track like in order, because I feel like that would take so much time and so much of your data. So I'm thinking about you guys. Otherwise, we'd have like a 5-hour session talking about music. Like, for real, I can talk that long. So yeah, an honorable mention to that song. It's probably one of my favorite tracks of all time by Emotional Oranges, and by far my favorite track in this album. So an honorable mention to it. As I said before, that they always have like these strong strings in them, and you can hear it in this song as well. They have like a really groovy, really jazzy, not jazzy, what do they call it? Soulful. Yes, that's the word. They have like a really soulful vibe to the bass guitar. So it gives you like that vibe where you're still in love with the person, but the lyrics don't really relate in that manner. You still like the person, but you're starting to see their flaws. You're starting to see that, okay, there's this thing that they do that I don't really like, but you still like them, so you keep going. So that's kind of the theme of this song, Personal. And we're going to the next phase. Like I said, it's like phases of love, this album. This is like, it really escalated quickly. Like, first song, you're really still in love with this person and you want to get to know them more. Second song, you're in love with them, but you don't really, feel it that much. And that's about it. Everything else, they talk about how it all broke down. Yeah, so that's pretty much how we'll go from here. So let's review the rest of the album. Alright, so the next phase of this album is when things kind of broke down in the relationship, or they turned sour. You hear that in the upcoming tracks where he or she, both he and she, they realize that this person is really not who they thought they are, and there's a third person in the mix now. So it's like you're just the two of you trying to figure this thing out, trying to be together, trying to make it work. but then now there's someone else in the mix, and he's kind of pushing away, or she's kind of pushing away, so that he/she can be with this third person. So that's when it goes into a stage of grief, to say, or stage of loss, where it's like denial, because he's like, yes, you can go, but you have to know that she won't love you back like I can. So it's like he's letting her go, but he really is in denial because he doesn't want her to go, and he doesn't he doesn't want to believe that the next person will be as good as he was, or as he will ever be. So that's where it goes to. So it goes on from like denial, and it turns into anger. It's like stages of loss, to say, because this is something that was nurtured and there was love, but now it's turned sour. So you really don't want to move on from it, just like grief. It's grieving a relationship. So it went from denial, and then it turned into anger, where it's like, don't hit me up unless you're drowning. Yo, that was crazy. I feel like at the same time, even if they were drowning and they managed to call him like, yo, I'm drowning, can you please come and save me? They'll be like, nah, I won't come. Sometimes you feel like that. Sometimes it's like that. I saw this other meme where it's like, even if there was a fire and I had water, I wouldn't use it to quench the fire, or something like that. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure you've bumped into it and you know what it says better than I do. But yeah, so it turns into anger. Then finally, the beautiful moment where you finally move on from this thing that you've been holding on to. Now you have accepted that, you know what, I tried my hardest, we had fun, we loved each other, and now it's time to move on. And those are always beautiful moments. Not as beautiful as when it started, but it's equally beautiful because you finding growth in yourself, and they actually talk about that, where he's trying to find growth in himself, and him realizing that if I stay with this thing, it will be toxic. So I'd rather just move on so I can work on myself and I can build myself. And that's from the last song. And an honorable mention to that one. An honorable mention to Corners of My Mind. That's my second favorite song in that album. Mostly because of what the message is about, and it's really relatable. So an honorable mention to that. You definitely have to go listen to that one, especially if you're coming out of a relationship. You might hear some things you're like, you know what, maybe I should just move on and start over. So yeah, honorable mention to that. So that's the album. Now let me just break it down for you, because I feel like there were some things that were kind of off to me. It's a really good album, don't get me wrong, but this was just one of the things that I didn't find so appealing. Alright, so let me just state this again. I really love the album, but there's one thing that I didn't find like really well with it. I feel like how they arranged the tracks is not in the correct logical order to me, because I feel like the theme of loss of the relationship is more predominant than the theme of them starting the relationship. Therefore, it should be centered around that, which is the loss. How I would have arranged it would have been in the order of the stages of grief, because it's kind of like grief to a relationship / loss, because grief is like deep, dark, like losing someone, like dying, losing. So I would say loss. From what we learned in LO, life orientation, stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Now the stages are not always in that order. Some people might not feel denial. I don't know, maybe that would be weird. But some people might not feel denial. Some people might not feel anger. Some people might not want to bargain. They might just accept it how it is. But from what I hear in this album, there's the theme of denial, there's the theme of anger, there's the theme of acceptance. So if I was to arrange it in that order, it would be motion, good to me, personal, then built that way, you know I'm built that way, that one. Then hold you back, which is probably where the denial really starts to really kick in. So that's hold you back. Then unless you're drowning, which is anger, you can really hear that anger. Wait, are we on 6 or 6? Unless you're drowning is 6, so this is 6. 6. Unless you're drowning someone else. Then the last one, which is acceptance, is, what's the name of that song? Corners of My Mind. So yeah, that's the order I would have put those in. But besides that, it's a really, really good album, which you should probably go and try out. I'm not really into like rating albums with numbers, because I don't know. I don't really like that. I want you to feel what you feel inside and rate it in your mind. I'm just giving like a base to motivate you to go listen to the album / to encourage you to go listen to the album and try out new artists, because sometimes you're always listening to the same people and it gets boring. Like, you know every lyric. As much as it's cool, you know, to know every lyric and sing along, sometimes you just need to try something new. They might be talking about more or less the same thing, but it's from a different view, and you might learn a thing or two from that. So that's why I always try to listen to as many different artists as I can and learn from them. So yeah, that's been my review of The Juice Volume 1 by Emotional Oranges. If you guys have heard the album and you want to add on to that, you can comment below. If you don't agree with what I've said, you can comment below in a rational manner, or you can find a way to contact me on Instagram or something, and we'll discuss it. So yeah.